Okay, there it is in the glass. The organic brown rice horchata, all ready to go. Yes, I have ice in there. Okay, welcome to this video. We're talking about horchata and maybe some other drinks that you can do without chemicals. Now, as you know, I'm making some videos now, some food ideas without as many added chemicals. And juices, drinks are one of the things where they load you up on stuff sometimes. And in this case, I have, as you can see, a short grain brown rice. Now, this is what we're going to make the horchata out of today. Now, I also have another quick juice idea that we'll go over as well, having to do with real juices. But let's get started with the horchata. First, as you can see, we have short grain brown rice. But this is not just, regular stuff. This is organic, non-GMO. They do have genetically modified rice, and rice has a lot of chemicals and pesticides and whatnot that can be in it. Now, even in organic, you can still get arsenic. But this is the best I can do. And my goal is not to completely avoid all chemicals, because that's really impossible. But it's to reduce as much as possible. And I can tell if I'm reducing it well, because my hands and feet, well, they don't work as well when I have chemicals. That it's been killing the nerve endings. But my hands and feet will tell me really well if I'm doing a good job of taking the chemicals out of my life. So, first thing about horchata, there's a cold method and a hot method. The cold method, which is usually used with the regular white rice, is you just basically put water and rice together. Sometimes you blend it up a little bit first and then sit it overnight, but you just sit it overnight. You don't cook it first. And people like that method because it makes a good ready-to-eat horchata. Once you strain, all you do to really do is just soak, strain, and add some stuff, and that's it. It's a good method to do. It's easy. This is not what I'm going to do. As you can see, I'm going to put in here, I'm going to do the cooked method. Now, granted, this is not as traditional, but the whole problem with the cooked method is that when you cook the rice, then it can become more of a pudding rather than a horchata. And we don't want pudding, we want horchata. But when you really look at what's going down here, in the uncooked horchata, when you blend this rice, well, white rice in regular horchata, when you blend the white rice and not cook it and just soak it in water overnight, you're straining out tons of rice. I mean, really, the amount of rice that's going in there is not as much as what you're throwing away. You're throwing away a lot of rice. And hey, that's okay for a lot of people. It makes them a good drink. But in this case, our goal here by cooking it is twofold. One, this is organic brown rice. It doesn't dissolve as easily as the regular white one. This is tougher stuff. We need to make this less tough, and we need to dissolve as much of this as possible and take it away from being rice, and then basically turn it into rice pudding. We want to get the rice pudding. And that is basically a concentrate, because our goal is to take as much of this rice and turn it into horchata as possible and throw away as little of it as is possible. So we want to cook it to get it soft as much as possible. I'm not going to grind it at all in a blender until it's cooked. I want to turn as much of this possible into horchata, and it does a good job of that. When you sift it out at the end, you're sifting out far, far, far less a percent of this rice than you would with the regular cold method. So, first step, we take 2 cups of organic, non-GMO brown rice. As you can see, that's the bucket of an Instant Pot. Okay. There. It's another cup. 2 cups. Now, this is our sugar. The type of sugar I'm using right now. I'm not a perfect person. I know that. This isn't not organic sugar, but it is non-GMO verified, and it is very minimally processed. It's not refined. It's Zulka sugar. You can get it at Walmart. And now, keep in mind, these bags do have a tendency of getting holes in them, so you have to be careful of them. It'll be leaking sugar. But this is a very cheap way. It's about the same price as regular sugar, but it's very minimally processed. It's absolutely non-GMO. It's 100% cane sugar. All they do is they literally just squeeze it and then evaporate the juice, and that's what you get. It's so it's not white and it's not completely brown. But it's more of a natural sugar, and it's really cheap. Really, and my hands and feet tell me if I'm having too many chemicals, because literally I'll get them itching, and the nerve endings will be doing really bad things. So this has not been giving me problems. So I don't know how it's processed other than what they say, and they say it's minimally processed, non-refined, but it hasn't been giving me problems, hasn't been giving my mom problems, and we're both pretty sensitive to chemicals, so that's decent stuff. So we're not going to put too much in now, because really when we put in later, I'm just going to put a little in now, just because sugar helps, get in cell walls and whatnot. Now, later on, we'll be using a little touch of honey, and as you can see, the cinnamon's important, but this cinnamon here, fair trade certified, I'm not sure all about that, but it is organic, Ceylon cinnamon, or however you pronounce that, sorry if I'm butchering that word, but this is the cinnamon that is the, quote-unquote, real cinnamon. The regular cinnamon you buy actually has a natural form of heart medicine in it that acts as a blood thinner. And it has some chemicals that just naturally grow, even without any pesticides, that naturally grow in it. This is chemically different a little bit, and it is supposedly a lot more healthy for you. It has a slightly different taste than the traditional cinnamon, which I hear in other parts of the world it's not even called cinnamon. This is the real cinnamon. This is the good stuff. That's organic, healthy. On Amazon, it's really not too expensive. So we right now are putting in rice. I just put a touch of sugar. I mean, really, you add the sugar later. We're making this into the pudding with the concentrate. It's not the horchata at the first step. This turns it more into a concentrate. The cheesecloth, I've unbleached cotton cheesecloth. So, next step, 5 cups of water. And there's a trick from soaking wheat where you use an acid to break down the wheat a little bit over a period of 24 hours. So, I want to break down this rice as much as possible and turn as much of this rice into goo or into liquefied rice as is possible. It's not all going to get there. So in addition to cooking this, I'm also going to add a little bit of acid. In this case, a little bit of lime, because lime goes with horchata. Now, note, it's not going to be way too much, because yes, it's horchata, and horchata is not like a fruit juice. You can't have it really acidic. But this is a concentrate we're making. It really goes a long way, and I just need a little acid. I'm going to soak it 24 hours. It's going to help break down the rice a little bit further. I know that you really need to, but now here's another alternative. You can add a little bit of malic acid if you want to. Again, a little bit of this in the horchata. That concentrate is going to go a long way. Acid will help to dissolve the rice a little bit more over the course of 24 hours. Now, again, you don't want to go crazy because this is not a fruit juice, and you don't want this really big acid flavor to it, but really, you don't need a lot of acid. Just a little bit will go a long, long way, and this is the concentrate we're making first. So, that is what we're going to do with the horchata. 5 cups of water, 2 cups of organic brown rice, and let's pause it here, and I'm going to go over the other recipe, just mentioned quickly. Fruit juice. Now, this fruit juice is fruit concentrate, as you know. Now, if this is here in a completely separate recipe, I just want to briefly go over it. It's just really simple. It's not exactly a recipe as much as it is an idea that I've tried and done a bunch of times. You just sort of have to make it up to the quantities you want. But you take a mix of some different 100% juices. And our goal is not to make 100% juice. Our goal is to replace Kool-Aid or replace any one of these sodas or other things with things that have slightly less chemicals. And concentrates are good at not having a lot of additives because they're 100% juice, and they're the concentrate form that don't even have the water added yet. So you add a little bit of concentrate in whatever types you want. Not the whole thing, just keeping in mind that the juice at the store you see is what, 10% juice, 20% juice for one of these fruit punches. They don't add whole loads of flavorings to them all the time to just make it taste good. Juice is naturally very flavorful. In any juice, you have a couple different things that are combining to make your flavor. You have juice, you have fruit acid, and you have sugar. So, when you are making a Kool-Aid type of a thing, or a fruit punch, your goal will be to go anywhere from 10% juice to 50% juice, somewhere along in that range. The flavor, the acid, and the sugar combines to make your juice. So you don't need 100% juice to make a good flavor. You're going to extend it by adding water, a fruit acid. This is malic acid. This acid can be found at at Amazon, and it is what you see in green apples. Green apples have malic acid. I'm not using citric acid. I'm using malic acid because malic acid goes with fruit better. This malic acid also, if you want a natural type of sour, well, granted, I don't know how natural that is, but this is the one chemical ingredient I have. And it really is a natural thing that is found in apples. This is not like crazy petroleum derivatives. So this is naturally found in apples, green apples particularly. So you can make candies. You can put the sugar with a little bit of this and that makes your Sour Patch type kids. You can even take like pineapples or fruit that's candied and make like a Sour Patch dried pineapple and whatnot. Long story short, okay, you have your juice, you have your fruit acid, you have your sugar, and you have your water. That's the only ingredients in a fruit juice, the only ones. And you can turn it anywhere from 10 to 50% juice content depending on your tastes and depending on what you want to do. You don't have to go crazy on the fruit acid. That goes a long way. It will last you forever, a thing like that. That is going to be far healthier than any Kool-Aid or fruit punch you have in the store, because you have the one additive here of something that's already in green apples, and that's malic acid. Granted, I don't know how they derive that, and I don't really want to know. I don't know how they produce it, but it is an acid, the same acid that is in fruit. That is a fruit acid. It's not a really bad chemical, and you're only having a very small amount of it. And it doesn't make my hands act up, and doesn't make my mom act up, so it can't be that bad. So, in either way, that's in lots of stuff you're getting. You're getting less artificial colors, less preservatives. There's no preservatives. That's a good way to do it. Just remember, mix it up to your taste. It's very flexible. Fruit concentrate, fruit acid, sugar, water. Mix it together until it makes about... keep in mind, like 3 cans plus that would be 100% juice. So you're not using a lot of that. You want to make a total of like 50% juice content, which is not much of that compared to regular, like what you would do regularly to just reconstitute it. Okay, so getting back to this, here's our horchata. You mind, I'm putting 2 cups of rice, 5 cups of water. Oh, then the salt. Just a pinch of salt. The Himalayan salt, non-GMO salt, is not grown. So, of course, it's not GMO. But this has ingredients. Salt. I don't see any anti-caking agents or other things. So it's a very pure type of salt, supposedly. There's lots of other salts that do have... I mean, if you pick up a can of salt, it's going to have anti-caking agents, sometimes aluminum, sometimes other stuff in it. So that really helps cut things down. So a little bit of salt in there too. And just what you want to put, a little bit of lime juice or a little bit of malic acid, whatever you want to put, not too much acid. And then I'll show you how you cook it in just a second. Okay, now here's the Instant Pot. As you know, Instant Pot does have a rice setting. It cooks for 15 minutes on normal type of stuff. Now, am I going to cook this for 15 minutes like you do for rice? No. Because do I want to cook the rice like rice? No. I want to disintegrate the rice as much as is possible. Because you turn rice into horchata that way. You disintegrate, well, in this case, you disintegrate it. Now, that goes back to the dual-fold purpose of cooking it. The first one, you know, is to get as much rice turned into horchata as possible. In the cold method, you throw away most of the rice, and only a little bit goes in there, and it makes one thing of horchata per bit of soaked rice, and you throw a lot of the rice away. Yeah, turning more rice into liquid is one of the goals. But another one is, as you can see, this will make a pudding type of a thing after you're done with the first step. Now, that's too thick. But what you've done is make a thickener, a natural type of thickener. And once it's diluted to proper strength, this thickener is it's very subtle, but it adds a really, really, really nice texture to it. It doesn't feel thick at all. It doesn't feel, I mean, it's the same texture really, but there's just something subtle you can't really put your finger on, and it's because it just makes it feel really smooth. And so that very, very, very slight thickening effect is something that's actually going to make it really taste good too. So how long do we cook it? Well, a bit longer. I mean, it's up to you. I cook the stink out of it. I mean, I cook it like crazy. But really, you know, cook it somewhere between 45 minutes, 60 minutes in the Instant Pot. As you can see, I just put bean jelly and it's 85 minutes on high. That's fine too. That's what I'm going to do here. But whatever floats your boat, it's all good. Just note it's not going to be horchata when you're done with the thing. It's going to be a concentrate. We're going to cook it. After it's done cooking, we're going to blend it. After it's done blending, then we're going to soak it overnight in the fridge. And I will meet you back when this is ready and we're on the blending stage. Okay, now this is done. We fast forward until it is all finished. Now, as you can see, that is the finished product. And you just take a little bit of this rice and put it in here. It's not too complicated here. Now, the key is that's pretty thick. That's not going to blend well. So you just have to add water, and there's not any specific amount of water. It has to be enough to where it's going to really, really get that rice. It has to blend all the way. Well, not all the way, but you can't have some just stuck at the top. See, it has a nice circle to it. chunks. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You're still going to have chunks. But just blend it a little bit. We'll just blend it a little bit, sorry, and we just take that, pour it into a pitcher, and get some more. Once that's all done, then you're going to have a pitcher full of concentrate. Soak that 24 hours. Okay, now this is how much concentrate that 2 cups of rice made. Yes, most of that is water. But horchata, when you actually do it like this, doesn't need much rice. This here, just the 2 cups of that brown rice, this is all right now pretty liquid. I mean, you can see that's pretty liquid. It's still a little warm though. As it cools down, it should turn more into like almost like a pudding type texture. Last time I made this one pitcher turned into 3 full pitchers, even more full than this, worth of horchata for me. That's going to vary though, based upon a couple factors on how well the rice turns itself into goo, and also what you add. Like for me, I add water and milk, cinnamon and sugar, and that has a really nice rice flavor to it, and we'll go over that in a minute. But if you're skipping the milk and you put all water, or maybe you use almond milk or something, it might change a little bit, or maybe your batch turns out different. You can't really with this give specific terms of how many cups it's going to be. You just sort of have to eyeball it. That we're going to set. You can see how liquidy that is right now. 24 hours of sitting should turn that into a bit less liquidy. Should be a little bit more almost like pudding. And of course you don't drink pudding, that's what concentrate is for. So, see you in a bit when this is had a chance to sit. Okay, it's been 24 hours. Here is the stuff we had just blended. As you can see, it is not liquid anymore. You can see it is more. I know there's the bubbles on the top because we had blended it in the arrows there, but yeah, it's more solid now, as you can see. See that little edge there? Now, that is the concentrate. So what we're going to need for this next step, 2 different pitchers, at least the way I do it. There's the cheesecloth, a spoon, and then the other ingredients, water and sugar and cinnamon and milk, for the way I do it. You can fine-tune the recipe for your needs. I always fiddle with recipes. I never leave it the same exactly. Sometimes I put this or that. I mean, sometimes I can even in horchata put a tiny bit of fruit flavoring, natural fruit, just to give it a hint of that. Sometimes I can put honey or just leave it plain, who knows. But yeah, that's what we're going to need, and here's the next step, just a second. Okay, now what we're going to do is take roughly about 1/3 of this and transfer it to this pitcher. Now, again, I say roughly, you have to eyeball these recipes, change it up a little bit to your needs, but for right now we're going to do about 1/3 of this. Just scoop it on in there, and once you have 1/3 of it, then you're going to put a little bit of water in and mix it up. Okay, I know it's hard to see in the video, but yeah, especially with this pattern here, but as you can see, I have about that much of the concentrate stuff. I can add more as I need to, but I don't want to put too much in right now, just because it does go a long way. So that should make a good batch. So that's more of the pudding-like concentrate. It's pretty thick, so you can see you wouldn't want to drink it yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add water to it. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit of water. You don't need to add way too much, don't need to add way too little. Add water, maybe roughly no higher than there. That's good with water for right now. You don't need too much of it. And the reason why is you can add more water later, but you can't take it away. And everything that goes in now is going to have to go through that cheesecloth. So next thing I'm going to do is obviously just stir this up, get it all mixed together thoroughly. Once it's really good and stirred up and really had a good chance to get blended really nicely, then I'm going to run it through the cheesecloth. So just stir a little bit in this until it's good and stirred up really nicely. Then we're going to run it through the cheesecloth. Okay, so I've stirred this up a bit. As you can see, it still has lumps of rice in it. And it's still not to the stage yet where you would think it's delicious or good or you would want to eat it. But it will be shortly. But it's stirred up pretty well. All of the concentrate is mixed in pretty evenly with the water. And it's ready to go through the cheesecloth. That's going to strain out any of the bits and make it into something that is really nice. Okay, now I have the cheesecloth here. You just have to make sure that the cheesecloth doesn't go in. So I'm going to put my handy dandy stirring spoon over there and just pour gently into the cheesecloth. And it's going to take its time to go through. Now, once it's done, it's okay to gently squeeze the cheesecloth a little bit to wring out some of the extra liquid, because there's going to be bits of rice in there, and it's not going to be hard rice. It's going to be gooey, sort of. And it's okay to get a little bit of that in there, as long as you don't get any of the gritty stuff. Anything that goes through the cheesecloth, if you have the cheesecloth done right, is going to be just fine. And so it's okay to give it a little squeeze here and there, so don't ruin your cheesecloth, but yeah, just help it out a little bit. And I'll get you right in once we're out of the cheesecloth phase. I'll let you know. Okay, now here you can see it in the bag. So you can see that as some of the thick stuff gets there, it really does hold a lot of liquid in the bag. So you do have to just squeeze this a little gently, get that out. You want to squeeze as much liquid out of there as you can. Don't use too much force if you have a weak cheesecloth. Just gently get some more liquid out of there. If you're doing it too hard and cheesecloth's not right, you can get some grit in there if you do that wrong. But yeah, just try to get as much moisture out of there as you can. It's okay if it's a little gooey as you're getting out of there. It mixes up really well. Okay, this is after all of the sifting is done. You have a nice, good, smooth base ready to put some more stuff in. And this is what's left over of the rice. So you can see, yeah, there's some rice left, but really not that much. What's here is the remains. Just throw that away or do what you want with it. But that's about what that looks like once it's already drained. Okay, here, this is about how much of that we made so far. That's not done yet. This is just after the sifting stage. This is the water that you get. That's pretty much just the concentrate that we'd made earlier, just with a little water added, and then sifted so that none of the grit's there. To this is going to be up to you. Minimum, though, generally for anyone that I've seen, you're going to need a pinch of salt. Not much at all, just a pinch of salt. Just because it can go well. You can omit that if you want, but that's very common to have that. Then a little bit of natural, non-bleached, as minimally processed as possible sugar, non-GMO, organic if you can afford it. At the minimum, that is non-GMO and minimally processed. It's cheaper than the actual pure organic, but it's what I can afford. You can put honey if you want. You don't have to. Just a little bit, just for flavor. There's the organic cinnamon, the Ceylon, or however you pronounce it. That's the real cinnamon, supposedly. It's the supposedly healthier stuff, not the stuff that has heart medication, naturally grows in it. And then there's milk. You put that basically to taste, and it's done. You can put some other stuff. Occasionally I might put like a hint of either lime or a hint of like cherry flavor, or a hint of some other, like maybe a almond extract or something, just whatever. Do it to taste from this point. You'll be able to get it from here. I'll show you the finished product in just a minute. I'm just going to add ingredients to taste: a pinch of salt, a bit of sugar, tiny bit of honey, a little bit of cinnamon, and some milk, and I'll show you what's next. Okay, now this is how much it made for me. After all the ingredients are in, this is how much it made. Now, the thing is, you have to keep in mind, the brown rice I'm using has a very strong flavor. And that's one of the ways we were able to get this much out of so little rice. I mean, the traditional cold method is never going to be able to make this much, basically 3 pitchers out of 2 cups of rice. I mean, that would be ridiculous. But, and that might not make that for you. Maybe it's only going to make 2 pitchers the way you do it. The way I do it has a strong enough flavor, and it just works out to where this is what I get out of it. Depends on the type of rice and the other variables you use, but kids love this. This makes the best use of your rice. It goes pretty far and has a lot less stuff than fruit punch or Kool-Aid or anything you're going to get like with all those colors. And here I control all the sugars are not processed, non-GMO, everything here goes in it is good. And that is organic, non-GMO brown rice, horchata. Sorry if I butchered the name, but using the cooked method, this is really nice and has a very smooth texture. I'll show you what it looks like in a glass just a second. Okay, there it is in the glass. The organic brown rice horchata, all ready to go. Yes, I have ice in there. Made quite a bit. And it's going to make a lot more because I only used about 1/3 of the concentrate I made. Tastes really good. Again, vary everything based upon how you like doing it. You like a more intense rice flavor or less intense. Just, you can mix it up slightly different. This is how I mixed it up. And it came out well. Everybody likes it. I've tried this. I've tried every horchata in the neighborhood. And I would get this. It has it has a more vivid rice flavor than a lot of the others around, as well as some more natural flavor. Of course, with the types of ingredients I used, it's just better quality as well. Don't worry about adjusting recipe a little bit to suit your needs. Make it more intense, less intense, whatever you need. Trial and error works well, but it's best to try and error and come out with something you really like than to keep going with stuff that stores sell that has tons of chemicals in it. And there you go. Have a great day. Lastly, I forgot to mention, this will separate. So once you put it in the fridge, you're going to have to stir it up again before you serve it anytime. It's every single time you want to get it out for people. once it sits for at least, like 15 to 20 minutes, it's going to separate a little bit. So you want to stir it again right before serving every time.